but solo shuffle needs to be a bracket in its own.
Solo Shuffle has absolutely demolished regular rated 3s and 2s.
Problem is Solo Shuffle, because it's rated, is getting the same rewards that you would receive from a 2v2 or 3v3 matchup.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
I'm Wabakis. I've been 2,700 plus. I've mained Ret for years and years, since at least season 4 of Burning Crusade.
So my name is Noah. As far as like my PvP experience goes, I've been playing this game since vanilla, and then eventually in Mist of Pandaria, that's when I finally broke my 2K barrier.
I'm erratic. I would consider myself a warrior main. I've got 2 warriors. I started PvPing back at the beginning of Shadowlands, pushing 1800 my first season just to get that juicy transmog, and then every season after that I hit duelist.
PvP right now, there's a lot of mixed feelings. You can tie in a lot of different stuff, but it's great. The gearing and everything is great right now. I don't have to upgrade my gear with honor. I can play multiple tunes if I want to. I do multi-class sometimes, but I have 3 Rets right now. Super easy to level, super easy to gear. And then PvP itself, you have tons of options. Solo Shuffle, Arena Skirms, actual 3s and 2s, rated battlegrounds to gear, get conquest. So right now I feel like the gearing is awesome, especially as a Ret right now. PvP doesn't feel so bad. It just depends on the day. If you queue late, then you get in instant queues. If you queue earlier in the day, you might have to wait a little bit. But even going up in rating once they start the inflation stuff, it's not hard for a new beginner to come in with friends and get some sort of rating for the gear. The rating system to get the enchants and everything is great. They lowered it for newer people. 1800 is like the max you have to get now. Yeah, you get some bonuses at 21, 24, but nothing too insane. But if you want the elite stat, it's 1800, and that's definitely attainable in most cases in either rated arenas or solo shuffle. I'm a 3-time Glad in Shadowlands, and I think PvP is better than Shadowlands right now.
I guess we'll start off with the gearing, because gearing is so quick right now. Like, you can get in there with the greens off the auction house and like grind out your blues in absolutely no time at all. And in blues, you feel competitive enough to get like up to 1800. Maybe not, like you said, in solo shuffle, but definitely, I mean, if you feel competitive like almost immediately after hitting max level. And now that we have conquest boxes, and if you play a healer, you're going to have so much conquest that you're going to be able to send over boxes to any alt that hits level 80 or 70 almost immediately. As far as how PvP feels right now, what I love about PvP right now is that the meta has changed like multiple times since the expansion has launched, and we're only 5 months into the expansion, and we have seen so many meta shifts because they are constantly rebalancing, and I think that's an absolutely great thing. Right now, I mean, I'm an Arms Warrior and a Preservation Evoker. Arms Warrior has felt great since maybe like a month or 2 into the expansion, when they kind of buffed Arms and nerfed Fury in PvP. Arms has felt pretty much good since then. Preservation was one of the top dogs. I think it was partially due to people not knowing how to deal with them. I don't know that there's been many nerfs to Preservation Evokers, but there's definitely been buffs to other healers. So I think Preservations are on the downside as far as like tier lists, best healers. But I think all the healers are competitive, and that's fantastic too. One of my other alts that I really want to get 1800 on is a Restoration Shaman. I want it for the set, and they just became kind of the top dog. So I'm excited to give him another go, because it's felt really hard before 10.0.7. But now I'm super excited to get back into him and give that another go.
Dragonflight, as far as the meta goes, it's not terrible. Everybody's a doom and gloomer, right? When it comes to, if you look at the PvP forums, specifically the arena forums on WoW, got a million nerf this, nerf that, because it counters my class. And the truth is, classes are fairly balanced, and Blizzard's doing a better job than they did in Shadowlands. I mean, they're doing a great job. The gearing portion of this X-Pack, specifically in Dragonflight, is amazing. It's fantastic. It's real quick. For example, right now, the meta is basically just Ret Paladin. That's it. You can go double Ret, you can go Ret Warrior, you can go Ret Hunter, you can go Ret Demo Lock. Basically, as long as you have Retribution Paladin on your team, like, it's a win. Or at least it keeps you from not losing terribly against another Ret. It's kind of a meme right now, but like the only thing that beats a Ret is another Ret, fact that I could just level a Rhett, because that's kind of the flavor of the month, and have him leveled fairly quickly, and then just all I gotta do is do a couple battlegrounds. I can get him at least into entry-level PvP gear within a day, and then just pretty much just spam solo shuffle for conquest, or send conquest boxes, right, from my other like from my main, who just doesn't need any more gear but has a ton of conquest, and I can gear out, you know, that alt fairly quickly. So as far as PvP goes for Dragonflight, Blizzard's doing some good things. In other areas, I think they could totally improve. But as is right now, I can't complain that entry level, or at least the Border 2 entry, is really small. It's not as hard as it once was. Shadowlands was terrible, as everybody can relate to.
Solo shuffle. I think it's a great idea. I've been 2100. This was pre-ret buffs, so I got to 21 something just for the duelist achievement, because I used to say I was a forever duelist. But solo shuffle needs to be a bracket in its own. The only thing that really upsets me is I had to try hard for my 2700 achievement. Solo shuffle is so inflated now. If you just queue it, people are getting the 2700 achievement and it counts as threes. So I think, in my opinion, it's a great idea, but I think it needs to have separate achievements, and I think that would fix WoW a little bit. Yeah, you can at 2400 and so many games above you get an achievement. I forget what it's called, but I think it needs to be completely separate from the original arenas 2v2, 3v3. I think there's a lot of people claiming they're 2700 now and only been 1800. No shame on them, but I think it should, like rated battlegrounds and everything, solo shuffle should just be a separate achievements. I don't think they need to get rid of it. I like the idea, or I'm not a big fan. Like I said, I have 2100 I think on this guy, but besides that, if they separated the achievements from regular 3v3 and solo shuffle, I think that would fix a lot of things. And then one last thing with solo shuffle, it's taken a lot of players from actual threes where I enjoy, so it's hard to get queues or even push rating right now because it's not as inflated as it's been in the past, and I kind of like the inflation. It makes it easier to play with friends, help them get rating, but right now I'm really focused on just getting glad this season myself. Again, I like solo shuffle, just needs its own achievements.
So, first off, I would like to say that I think there's a lot of hardcore PvPers who think solo shuffle is a terrible thing. I think it's a great thing for the game for you to be able to queue solo and get like team gameplay without having to sit into looking for group and deal with the anxieties and the elitism that is in LFG. Just get some gameplay, get some rating. I think it's a fantastic thing. Now, the other side of that is I was really excited to get Gladiator this expansion. I started playing PvP in Shadowlands, worked my way up to Duelist. I never really pushed past Duelist, but I was confident that I was going to be able to make that push into the Gladiator range this season, and Solo Shuffle has absolutely demolished regular rated 3s and 2s. If you look in the LFG, the amount of people like looking for people is so small. If you look at the statistics, people who have like basically at each rating, everyone's past experience is 300 to 400 points higher than what their current rating is right now, which just means like everything is so deflated. Part of that was due to Blizzard not inflating the rating like they usually do, which they started doing that a couple weeks ago. But even still, like you're facing gladiators every game at 1600. Like that's not an exaggeration. Like in Shadowlands you might see gladiators at every rating like every couple of games, but literally right now every 1600 game and above, and probably even lower, that's just where I'm stuck at kind of right now, you're seeing gladiators every game. And I'm talking about recent gladiators like Shadowlands gladiators. It's nutty. I hate what Solo Shuffle has done to rated 2s and 3s, but I do think that it's overall good for the game. I just think that the reward structure is going to have to change a little bit, or else we're going to see like 5 gladiator mounts because there's nobody playing 3s and getting to 2400 and then getting those wins above. Like you're literally just going to see rank 1 players with gladiator mounts, which is, you know, if that's what the goal is, that's fine. But I feel like the goal is to have, you know, rank 1 be that prestigious, like very few players, and gladiator to be like, you know, good PvPers, but not necessarily, you know, the top 0.01%. The other part about Solo Shuffle that sucks is the DPS queue times. I am a warrior main. I have been since I started playing World of Warcraft. and it has basically forced me to play healer because number one, if I'm not playing with the main people that I play with on my warrior, I'm sitting in solo shuffle queues, and I'm not sitting in a 30-minute, 40-minute solo shuffle queue when I have like an hour or 2 hours to play every day.
Yeah, so solo shuffle is its own beast right now, and there's basically two camps of thought within the rated arena scene. At least it's a pretty hot topic. It's pretty controversial. It's like a Biden versus Trump thing, right? Basically, what you got is solo shuffle versus legitimate. And let me just preface: I line up more with the rated 2v2, rated 3v3 battlegrounds. I bring back rated 5v5 and keep those rewards within that bracket, because what you have is solo shuffle versus rated. The problem is solo shuffle, because it's rated, is getting the same rewards that you would receive from a 2v2 or 3v3 matchup, right? And so when your CR is 2.1, you can get duelist in solo shuffle, but it's harder to get duelist in rated arena right now, specifically 2v2 or 3v3, due to a deflated season. Like, just rating is so deflated because not very many people are queuing, for example, for 2v2 or 3v3 due to the popularity of solo shuffle. And so that's kind of the big argument, right? It's like, why are the rewards almost, not all of it, almost the same as rated 2v2 or 3v3? They're really, apart from getting gladiator, right, there really is no incentive to queue what many have considered the legitimate form of rated arena. It is an LFR version of Mythic rating. However, it's basically adding almost the same rewards that Mythic rating provides in LFR. And if that were to happen in the PvE community, I'm quite certain a large portion of individuals would have a massive fit about it. But the fact that it's happening in the PvP community is there's still, again, a large portion of those that actually prefer kind of the old ways, or the old the traditional ways of rated PvP. They're pretty up in arms about it, but not much really. PvP isn't as huge as, or I wish it was, but it's not. It's not as big as the PvE aspect or of the game.
Rets feel great because of the rework. I like everything they did. They are big machine, but I think they need to go one or two ways. They did nerf the healing, so we are kind of a glass cannon, but it needs to be nerfed a little bit more. That, or nerf the damage and make us more of a utility monster. But they are doing the right nerfs slowly. They're not completely nerfing to the ground, because they are nerfing our ability Judgment of the Peer, where it only works for us. So it kind of makes spellcasters unplayable if you play against a red pally, because of Judgment of the Peer. Come Tuesday, other casters will start coming up out of the woodwork, because every class nerf is a buff to other classes. Me being ret for years, you can tell rets who are re-rolling just because they're flavor of the month right now when you play them. But then you can tell the rets that have been around for a while know how to play rets. They just have so much utility. You can go either single target, you can go AoE. Either way, it's devastating, and they just do damage. They don't die. So I do expect some more nerfs to come around. I'm a big fan right now because I'm biased, but they are overpowered, and kind of makes me salty seeing all these reds in the arena right now. But oh well, I beat most of them, so pretty happy about that.
So here's the thing. I play with a Ret Paladin as my main threes pushing team, so I have zero problem with Rets being good right now. That's kind of me joking, but at the same time, like, I also heal against them in solo shuffles and other games. I don't find Rets... So the initial buff was absolutely nutty, yes. Like, people were just dying out of the blue. But since they kind of nerfed Rets after 4 or 5 days, whatever it was, I don't find them to be insane. But again, that's because I play Warrior and I play Preservation Evoker. I think people who are really having issues with Rets are classes that have magical effects that are getting dispelled by their PvP talent that just makes their judgments instantly dispel, has like an 8-second cooldown. I don't know exactly what all the numbers are, but I could see how that could be very frustrating if you're one of those classes that can't keep a polymorph up or can't keep flame shock up, or what have you, where the Ret is just pressing his regular rotational abilities and completely annihilating your damage, as well as being a very bursty class, very defensive class. I mean, Rets have been kind of garbage up until now, so I don't think there's a problem with them being like one of the best ones right now. I think every class should get that, day in the sun. When it is so drastic, I know it can be super annoying. I was super annoyed when discs got buffed to where they were literally the only healer at the top of the solo shuffle queues. It felt impossible to heal against them. But I think with how Blizzard is handling PvP and just general balancing in general now is great. We're going to see changes where the meta shifts again here in another couple weeks. We've got 10.1 coming up with tons of CC changes. I think Rets probably need some sort of nerf to the magical dispel ability thing, but I'm happy with them having it right now, and if it were up to me, they would keep it.
Honestly, if Blizz can do a better job kind of balancing or listening to feedback through the PTR, rather than let something like 10.07 Ret Paladin come out, which is probably arguably the strongest spec that I have personally ever seen from a rework or a patch, and that's including I think it was season 13 or season 12 Mist of Pandaria with BM Hunters just pressing Stampede and just killing everybody. Season 5 DKs back in Wrath, Cat of Warriors. I forgot what patch that was when they had Armor Pen and they were just decimating people like freaking absolute alpha chads. Yeah, I don't know. This is the most broken I've ever seen a class, really. And so if Blizzard could just do a better job tuning before it's released, instead of literally basically ruining the bracket, because I think right now the comp win rate for like any form of a Ret Paladin is between 57 to 60% from like 1600 all the way up to like 2800 or something, and that's unheard of. So that's just someone picking up Ret for the first time and having almost a 60% win rate, which is really freaking good, right? So if they could just tune better, that would be ideal. But yeah, in essence, I think PvP's in a good spot. There's obviously room for improvement. If the player base stopped being so toxic toward one another, that'd be ideal. And if people stopped chasing flavor of the month and had some class loyalty, that would probably make the game a little bit better. But you can't really change other people, right? And so those are just hopes. They're probably not going to come to fruition. And so just kind of, I don't know, be the change that you want to see in your game, I guess. And just keep at it. If you're a Paladin player before 10.07, continue to play a Paladin, because you never know when your class is going to be broken next. And the more that you play that class, when time arises for you to just be God mode, you're absolutely going to decimate people, right? Because you know your class inside and out.
All right, 10.1. I am excited. I'm a huge Ret Warrior fan. I have a main team. We don't play much very often. That's why I think my rating's only 19 something right now. We do seem like we have a lot of games, but it's one of the first seasons. But 10.1, I think will be a Ret Warrior Resto Shaman dream. I think they're doing it perfectly. I'm going to be biased. They're nerfing all CC, and I right now there's so much macro CC. My healer can get kicked by so many things or stuns, feared. There's so much macro CC. So nerfing all the CC, I'm so excited for. Giving some of the changes with the shaman. I'm just being biased because I'm a Ret Warrior player. I mean, my first Glad was with Cupid back in BFA, but I just love they're changing the meta. Like, kidney shot's always been 6 seconds, I think. Poly's the same amount, but now they're dropping it by a second. Even my Hodges, they're dropping by a second. Repentance. I love that they're changing the game in the PvP aspect. I cannot wait to see how the CC changes will change PvP. It's going to change it dramatically, and I'm excited for 10.1.
Don't really have a lot, like there's nothing I can nitpick at a bunch that is just trash to me. I guess if there's one thing I could change, it would be the 100 to zeros in a global. That can be super frustrating as even as a DPS, like especially with solo shuffle, when you have maybe abilities that could help your teammates, or when you're a healer and it feels like the damage was just unhealable there, even with your cooldowns up. I think that could be changed. I don't know how they do it. I don't have the correct answer. It's weird because they keep making these changes saying they're going to slow down the meta, and the meta has not slowed down at all. It has only gotten faster and faster. since the start of the expansion. As far as the CC changes, I know there's a lot of people who are on like both sides of debate there. So they're making the CC changes in 10.1. I don't know if they're for sure going to stay, but here's the thing, it's just a meta change, and I think that's fantastic for World of Warcraft. I'm interested to see what it feels like. Again, I'm a warrior main, so like I'm fucking happy with all these other people getting super reduced CCs and actually getting to play your character. I think it is a nerf to pro players and a buff to more casual players. And I honestly think that's what PvP needs right now, because I genuinely believe PvP in WoW is dying. And honestly, so in a perfect world, the only way to get WoW PvP in a good spot is to immediately give everyone the best gear and have it queuable without having to do literally anything else in the game. No gold for enchants, no power level increases with PvE gear or like this ring that's coming up. I think they're doing a good job with balancing that in PvP. I think WoW Arena is some of the most interesting and fun PvP gameplay in any game out there. Problem is, barrier to entry is really high, because you've got to level the character, you've got to gear up, you've got to pay for enchants, you got to learn about every class. I would love to see it in a more mainstream like way, but I don't think it's going to ever get there. But I think some of those things I mentioned, might help just a little bit.
What I'd like to see, honestly, is just change or a switch from the reward system that you have now, so that it would incentivize more people into playing 2v2 and 3v3. What would be ideal, and this is my hope, is that Solo Shuffle would kind of be a gateway into actual rated arena that is more respected within the actual rated community, into 2v2 and 3v3, so that you can kind of like cut your teeth, get fed to the wolves in Solo Shuffle, and then be like, you know what, I think I'm ready to do some actual 3v3. Let's do this. And then you go online, because this is an online game, right? It's an MMO. You find other people, you become friends with them, you get some synergy with them, or maybe you don't, and you realize, oh, I don't like that kind of person, or I don't like playing with that kind of personality. But either way, you're still cutting your teeth. You're still kind of like through trial and error, determining who you like to play with and the type of people that you like to play with, so that your game can be more enjoyable, and you can kind of make it into something that is kind of a blessing to play, rather than, oh man, I hate logging in, I hate looking to play specific comps against specific teams with these players who are so toxic, who give me actual anxiety when I'm in comms with them or on Discord or whatever, or who treat me like garbage. Like, you have like some player advocacy and some player candidacy where you can, like, I don't know, self-advocate for yourself and choose, I'm gonna do a better job tomorrow and play with some individuals that focus on making me a better team player, and I can also be kind of a blessing to them and make them a better team player too. So that would be like, that's what I would hope to see change, is that Solo Shuffle kind of is the gateway into the real, in my opinion, the real format of rated arenas, which would be 2v2 and 3v3. That's not to say Solo Shuffle doesn't require skill, but it does. It can teach kind of the basics, but then you can kind of learn like the real kind of like awareness that is needed to climb real rating in 2v2 or 3v3.